The cheapest solution is not always the most cost effective. Plus, the opposite can be true there too, right? The most expensive is not always the best either. So make sure you're paying attention to true costs. Going into number 4 here or actually we are on number 5, the number 5 of the best practices of life cycle costs. Okay. So as I mentioned, the cheapest solution is not always the best. Recently, I was talking with, the team was on a call with a client out of South Florida that we were looking into trying to help them out a little bit. And they were complaining about how they had to replace their chargers constantly. Like it was like they were talking about like almost every year, it seemed like they were, 12 to 18 months, they were having to buy new chargers. And every time they would go back to the manufacturer or the electrician and say, hey, these things, quit working. The excuse always was, oh, well, you're outside your 1-year warranty and, you're in bad conditions. You got harsh conditions. Well, I kind of poked around and, when the team brought it to me, I said, well, let's check what chargers they're using. Let's pay a little bit more attention here, because I was like, I don't buy this, right? We've got chargers that have been in salt air conditions for 3 years and going strong. So what's really happening here? Well, was it ocean spray? Maybe. Was it something like that? Well, the truth was, what we found out is they were buying cheap chargers. They were getting a cheap charger. They didn't think so because it came from a major brand. Like, it was not like they were buying some knockoff brand. It was a major brand, but that major brand made one charger. It was the same charger that was made for home charging to put in a personal garage. And it was the same charger that they would give to commercial establishments to put outside. So these things were breaking, they were falling apart, and they were getting damaged by the salt because they weren't in a proper container. Like, there was just so many things that they thought they were doing well by saving the money, but they really weren't, because they ended up spending, a typical 5-year life cycle. They bought 4 chargers at least, right? Where with ours, they would have bought 1. So it wasn't the best way. So when you're doing this, when you're looking at life cycle or the cost, in a best practice level, we want to make sure we're looking at life cycle cost. That's the cost over the 5 to 10 years, not just the initial cost. So when we look at that, it's going to include, quite a few things, right? When you look at the cost, obviously year 1, we got our CapEx cost, which is very important and a big part. So you're going to have your make ready costs, where you're bringing out an electrician to get the power out to the parking lot, things like that. That's a big chunk, very big chunk. Then you got your charging solution, buying the chargers, leasing the chargers, financing the chargers, however that's going to play out for you. And then after these things are installed after year 1, you've got the operational costs. You got to keep these things running. You got to keep them on the software, the network, the things like that make it all tick every day. So we want to look at all that stuff, not just, oh, look, I can buy this charger for, $700 and put it in and I get free software with it. But then all of a sudden you're replacing it every 14, 18 months, or it's constantly not working. So you're getting bad reviews because the guests are mad because the thing doesn't work properly. So these are things you want to pay attention to, so that we get the right solution for the duration of your network. So obviously it starts with equipment. Make sure you're researching that equipment. Again, the highest price equipment doesn't necessarily make it any better either. Like, I remember chargers at one point selling for $3,000-$4,000 for a single charger, like level 2 charger. And it was like, I don't care what kind of thing you try to make that into nowadays. Like, it's not worth that kind of money. There's very, very good chargers on the market for a third of that cost, right? And there are ones way cheaper that, but make sure you strike that proper balance. One of the things I tell everybody look at is, number one, what's the warranty that's available? Okay. And then there's a lot of companies that will offer these enhanced warranty packages and ride-on packages. See what's available, because I know for our programs, there's a list of chargers that we can't cover. Like if you have a certain type of charger, we will not put it in our programs because we won't cover that type of charger. So take a look at that kind of stuff. Look at, make sure you understand the price, the warranty, maybe even some history. Look around, right? Find out how these things are working elsewhere. So the next thing to really do to make sure you're getting the best out of your life cycle cost is shop around for your EV service provider. That is who's going to, whose network are these things going to be on? Is it EV Connect? Is it Amp Up? Is it Stay in Charge? Is it Nudo? Right? Is it Blink? Whatever ones are out there, right? There's hundreds of people doing these networks. So look into that, shop around, get a few quotes from them, understand what other points they have, and look at the cost of them. What is the ongoing cost of those? And are you paying for things you don't need? Okay. In level 2, a lot of times we don't need power management stuff. And the software companies will be telling you how we have dynamic power management. Well, okay. But if you have 4 chargers that have the capacity out of your panel to power all 4 at 100%, then paying for dynamic power management is just money out of your pocket. Like, it's not doing anything. So make sure you understand exactly what you need versus what you're paying for, right? The next thing to do is on the electrical side. We recommend getting 3 quotes, even with our preferred vendors that we work with, right? So we have a network of vendors, but we tell all of our vendors, we don't care where you are, how many projects you've done for us. When we have a new client come on board, we will get 3 quotes at a minimum. Okay, that's just an old habit I bring from my construction days. What we used to look at is you never know the market without at least 3 quotes, because in construction, there's always going to be that one guy that's going to be super high, and you're often going to find one guy that's super low, right? So we as a team, we always make sure we get at least 3. We prefer 4 because that gives us a more accurate piece on where the market really is. So you want to do the same. If you're doing this on your own, make sure you're getting those quotes. And then the next big thing that we try to recommend everybody look at is the ongoing operations, right? When you put a charging system in, okay, there will be ongoing operations that you need to do. Once that electrician's gone, once that company's gone, your chargers are in, they're set up, they're running. What do you have to do on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis, annual basis to keep those things running? Are you dealing with the guest? Are you dealing with maintenance issues? Are you dealing with troubleshooting? Because every hour your staff spends on managing or controlling your EV charging solution is an added cost to the life cycle of that system. So make sure you understand that from your different providers and can compare that in your overall cost. And then lastly, look at repairs, okay? Ask about repairs, ask about programs they might have and how they handle them. On a good note, when it comes to level 2 EV charging, is when you do a single unit, especially, these things are not super expensive, right? So the initial cost, you're talking anywhere from $900, $1,500, maybe $2,000. So if you get several years out of that and something major happens, at least you're not talking about replacing a $20,000, $50,000 piece of equipment, right? But sometimes it's as simple as replacing a modem, right? So find out what the providers that you're working with, the companies that you're working with, who's manufacturing these, and how do they stand behind that equipment? So you know better how to judge that life cycle cost. So remember, most importantly here, what is the true cost of ownership over the 5 to 10 year period that these things will be operating in your parking lot? Don't just go with the cheapest one, because you might find yourself spending that cheapest dollars every year. So that's it for this one. If you want some more information, feel free to reach out at sales@stayincharge.com. And I hope this information helps you better understand EV charging. See you next time.